We ran it back. The Chiefs are going to the big game. On this podcast, we'll be featuring some of the upcoming very, very important bills that we've kind of already touched on before, but we want to make sure that we get an extra chance in and all kinds of good, meaty political stuff. Go Chiefs. It's the Freedom Roundup. It's the Freedom Roundup podcast. I'm Shaun Horner, Executive Director of the Heartland Fund Incorporated. This evening, I am joined by my usual motley crew. We'll start off directly to my left. Kress Cambers, Jackson County GOP Treasurer and Campaign Manager for the Jeff Coleman campaign. We are also joined by the lovely and talented Shaun Horner, Associate Director for the Heartland Fund Incorporated and President of the High Noon Republican Women's Group. And finally, out of timeout, representing the 32nd District of Missouri, Jeff Coleman. Hey!
Hey, Shaun. You
Hello.
mean it's time to wake up?
It is time to wake up.
All right. It's about time we got going on this.
Welcome, everybody.
It took us 3 hours to get set up. I just want everybody to know.
That's very true.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff. You had to wake up because it took how long?
3 hours to get set up.
Just like Gilligan's Island. So tonight we wanted to start off with a little bit of talking specifically about, I want to start off with, Jeff, your property tax initiative and the talk you've got coming up. So first I want to talk about the property tax bill.
Yes.
And then I want you to talk about your town hall you're going to be sponsoring and the group involved there.
Yes.
So start off with the bill first.
So House Bill 248 is a property tax bill for all those who have issues with their property taxes. What happened is 2 years ago, I guess it's been, that I was on a special tax committee for the summer, and it was set to deal with all taxes for the municipalities. But what it ended up being is a tax. Everybody was more upset about the property taxes than anything else at the time. That became the main subject. So that's what I really left that committee from. Was with, we need to do something about the property taxes.
Right.
Jackson County was a big issue. St. Louis County was another big issue. There's no standard set across the state. So what I tried to do was come in and simplify things. So what this bill would do, once again, House Bill 248, it will do away with everything that we're currently doing, which is all based upon market value for housing.
Right. So you're not gonna have those poor folks that we talked about in the past that had like the 400% and the ridiculous, I can't afford to live in my own home anymore.
Right.
Taxes.
Well, in Jackson County alone, the county assessor took 74,300 and some odd houses that were low income and put it up to the absolute maximum she could put it, which was 14.9, without going out and doing a physical inspection.
Wow.
So
I can't imagine what a 10% property tax increase,
just huge.
especially if you're on a fixed income.
Well, think about that. And these folks don't really have the wherewithal to go out and battle against that.
No.
Right? So they just kind of accept it and do what they have to do. We also had one that went up, believe it or not, this is an absolute real number, 1,400%.
What?
Think about that.
What?
What happened if your house went up 1,400%?
So if you were paying $100, you'd turn right around and you'd have $1,400.
Correct.
Holy.
Is that correct? Or 14? Yeah,
You're good.
Yeah,
That's
1,004.
correct.
Yeah.
It's been a long night.
Yeah, well,
Radio math adds up
math-
right there.
I was going to say
Math guy can do it in his head.
I was going to tell you where I went to school, but I better not do that. So yeah, it became a big issue. The State Board of Equalization has a parameter that every county assessor should be between a 90 and 110% value of what market is.
Right.
So my question to everyone out there is, should we ever pay more taxes? Should we pay taxes on more than what our house is worth? Because shouldn't it be between 90 and 100% rather than 90 and 110?
Well, yeah, you don't ever want to have a home worth more, or you owe more than the home is worth, because I mean you couldn't even get a mortgage for that.
No, so you're paying taxes on 110% value on some of these houses. Anyway, bottom line is what I did is I took all that market value out. From now on, if this bill passes, and hopefully it does, we will then move from a market value driven system to simply whatever CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, is. Okay?
Right.
So whatever the whatever the value of your home is at the time this bill passes.
Okay.
From that point on, the total amount that the county assessor can raise your value is simply the CPI, or Consumer Price Index.
Right.
If you look at the Consumer Price Index over the last 40 years, the average annual increase is just under 2%. So every 2 years, as if you look at averages, the most they could raise your house value is 4% or just under.
Yeah, not like what we've seen with this
The
hit
10,
and miss thing. Yeah,
right, the 10, 15, 20, 50, 100%. So it gives you the ability to keep a budget going. CPI is based upon a lot of the inflationary issues. So as you look at your Social Security, it should be your Social Security should be able to keep up with those increases in values. If you're
helps those on the fixed income side of
correct,
things. Yeah,
right, that's correct.
That's awesome.
So that's what this bill does. We are getting ready to have some town hall meetings. We need everyone to make sure that they contact their state representatives, their state senators, and the governor's office. Those are the people that you need to get out and contact. Email them, make a phone call, whatever you need to do. Make sure you get out and get that.
Well, and
message out there.
old method kind of reminded me of, like, the commercials you hear on the radio sometimes, the timeshares, where you don't know exactly what it's going to be, and it could be
right.
It could jump up at a large amount.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was, when I lived in Jackson County, I was pretty lucky where we lived. We weren't impacted very much at all, for the most part. I mean, there were folks a couple blocks over or whatnot that were, but we were pretty okay.
Isn't that interesting that you just made a really good point?
Yeah.
That you may be in an area that doesn't get impacted as much.
Right.
However, a street over gets drastically impacted.
Right, and that's what I was talking about. There was literally over the way where my parents' older house was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
remember our next door neighbor was impacted and we weren't.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that because
and we have exactly the same home.
Yeah, almost exactly the same home, and she got hit, but we didn't. That's right. I forgot all about that.
So you see that's the thing. There's no standardization across the state. There's no standardization within our own communities. And while someone with the same house could have a drastically different. So I just think it's more fair. It helps you to.
So are you getting a lot of pushback from your colleagues, or is everyone seem kind of on board on this?
No, actually, right now there's a lot of support. It hasn't got referred to a committee yet. I do anticipate that it will. Good. I've been working on the speaker really hard, and so we're fresh into the session. I anticipate that within the next week or two we'll get a referral to a committee. And when we got referred to Ways and Means Committee last year, we had enough votes to get it out, but then we ran into COVID and it got pushed over until this year. Right.
So real quick though, I want to point out that he does have a lot of support from the public, and we have been seeing that on the campaign side. The public is enjoying this bill. They like it a lot.
Well, it makes sense. It's easy to understand. Right. It's not.
But the only pushback though is from the other government entities, I guess, is the school districts, basically, because they can't just by whim say we're going to raise your property taxes, because that's how schools make their money or get money, is from our property taxes, and they're afraid if they go out to the public and ask for more money, they're going to get denied those monies.
Right. So Jeff, when I presume you've been talking to folks involved in education on this, when they push back, and they want the increases that people, when we're talking $1,400 can't afford.
Yeah.
Does it make more sense to talk to them and inform them that, hey, you'll be able to do your budget easier too, because you'll see this gradual increase?
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of the schools, when we first introduced this, really don't know that much about the bill. So as we enter into this and we are able to educate the schools as well, I think that they will come to understand that this really isn't as bad as they think it is.
Right. No, I think it'll be better. I mean,
because again, like you said, the budgeting aspect of it they're not losing anything.
No.
They're just, there's just not this unlimited, sky's the limit increase.
Yeah.
They'll have a ceiling to go off of.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
The unlimited purse is no longer unlimited, so to speak. So you were talking about you were going to have a town hall here soon.
Correct.
We're talking about.
Yeah, we've got a town hall meeting on Monday, February the 1st, which is just a couple of days away, starting at 7:00 at the Lake Lotawana Gun Club. It's a great group. It's not our individual.
What's the name of the group?
The name of the group is We the People.
Okay. Yeah, I happen to have gone to one of them. They're a great group of people. So you're going to be speaking about.
We'll be speaking about this bill, and then we'll be speaking about some of the other bills that we have as well.
Yeah, that we'll be talking about here in a minute. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back to
social media censorship.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
good
next
one.
here in a second. So be right back. This portion of the podcast is sponsored by the Heartland Fund Corporation, sponsoring issues and candidates that care. And we're back. We're going to be talking next about a bill Jeff's also got in the hopper. This one is the Stop Social Media Censorship Act. Too many S's. I used to slur them as a kid. I had to learn to say my S's right. So, Jeff, you want to talk about a little bit about this one, too?
Yeah, you bet. It's that's House Bill 482. And, I put this out on Facebook, and I've got such mixed reviews.
Well, and the thing I want to mention real quick, and I don't want to mean it, and then I'll shut up so you can talk about it. But I want to mention that you actually came out with this bill long before any of this crazy stuff actually started happening.
I did. I pre-filed that bill back in early December. And so this happened way before all the Capitol stuff, way before Trump got censored and got kicked off all the social media stuff. And the reason I did this is because while I'm a free market person, to have a free market, you have to have a free market. And so what's happening, we've got 5 companies who control the whole market. They if somebody else tries to start up in that marketplace, they buy them out or they just squash them and take them off all aspects of social media.
Yep.
So there's no access to them.
No.
So if I don't like what Facebook is doing, then what happens is I have no other place to go.
No.
So I have no other option. So if Facebook censors me and says, you can't say that, and they take me off, where do I go? And
Yeah,
so
there's no. Well, and everyone's like, well, and the argument you always hear is, well, make your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I gotta.
I mean, we did make our own, right? With Parler.
Parler, yeah.
And
then-
they removed them.
Well,
Yeah.
because everyone forgot the cardinal rule of IT, which is cloud is fancy term for somebody else's computer.
Right, and that's what they did with Amazon,
Right. AWS.
AWS, Amazon Web Service.
Yep.
They said, forget this. and they kicked off Parler from their web service. So
Yeah,
they're
from
no
hosting.
longer
From hosting, yeah.
on the internet. So where do we go from here, Jeff? If, like you said, you have to have a free market to be able to have social media.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if there is no free market?
Yeah, well, I want to discuss something real quick.
Sure.
On Facebook, a lot of the people are talking about the fact that if you believe in a free market, you're conservative, then you're not going to be doing this bill. And I do believe in a free market. They always bring up the gay couple who wanted to buy a wedding cake out in Colorado, and the baker wouldn't make the cake for them.
Right.
And they always try to compare the two. Well, the thing is when you compare the two, there's really no comparison, because the difference is the gay couple, they wanted their wedding cake. That's fine. The baker didn't want to make it for them. Well, guess what? They could have gone to a multitude of other options. In fact, if I remember right, there was another baker just across the street. So they had the option to go to another place. In this case, we have no other option.
Yeah, you can't
Right?
exactly post the same stuff you would normally post on Facebook on, let's say, Pinterest.
Yeah, exactly.
So a little bit different demographic audience.
But Pinterest is also owned by guess who?
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know it is.
So my point to this is not, it's just simply that there is not a free market when it comes to social media. So what my bill does is it allows the people of Missouri, it only affects the people of Missouri, obviously, it allows them a voice to be able to sue the companies for a minimum of $75,000. It could go higher if they feel that it's a justifiable issue.
Of punitive damages
Right.
of $75,000.
Right. And so it just gives you a voice to be able to express yourself, because that's really what we're losing, right? We're losing our freedom of expression
Right.
with the social media. And that's all we're asking to have. Give us the chance to express ourselves, our views, our points of views, so that we can have that opportunity to get that message out there. And that's what they're taking away from us.
Right.
Hey, Jeff, I do have a question. One person mentioned to me about this bill is that how does it affect their status as a 230?
Section 230.
Section
Section
230. Yeah, I thought it was
Of
230.
the
but
Communications and Decency Act.
Right.
So how would that affect that? Because
It wouldn't affect that Section 230. It leaves that in place, because if you do what you're supposed to do under that guideline, you wouldn't have to worry about what we're doing. Because under Section 230, if you act as a platform and you allow a pass-through of information, so you're not dictating what gets to be said and what doesn't get to be said, and somebody gets upset, they can't sue you because you're not the person that's putting out that message. It's the person. It's the person that's actually putting the message out there that could be sued.
okay, yeah, because that was raised to me when I had mentioned this bill to them, and I was like, well, the 230 prevents them from being sued because they're 230, and I'm like, well, Jeff needs to explain that a little bit better. I haven't. So
we also need to discuss, I've seen a lot of traffic on your social media page about people comparing this to yelling fire in a movie theater.
Oh, that's
which
that's
is
easy. That's easy. That's easy. The easiest way to keep in mind the fire in a movie theater isn't free speech. It's a call to action.
It's a call to action, yes. And which these people are not understanding. They have a one-track single cell microorganism mind that
Easy.
well, they're leftists, so we can call them whatever. For 40 years, we got called KKK members, so they have a microorganism mind with single cell. So anyway, the point being, yelling fire in a theater is a call to action. It's inciting something that could happen. This is protecting our First Amendment right of free speech and expression by actually allowing us to speak our mind. It's not that hard, but they get tied up on, well, yelling fire in a crowded theater. yelling fire when there's not actually a fire. That's a call to action.
Well, you
that's
have to
inciting
also
violence.
you also have to remember that a lot of these leftists are going with the same argument points that everyone else is going with. They don't have their own original thought when it comes to this. So
Correct.
they literally are the mindset of the hive mind. They can't actually argue for themselves for their own thinking. They have to think of what others have told them to argue. So if you actually change the question that they ask and you put it right back at them, they can't answer it themselves.
Right.
What's the difference? I mean, well, okay, say fire in a movie theater. What are you doing? You're causing an action to happen. Well, when you're stopping someone from just saying, hey, you stole the election, so they're taking that off, is that an action that you're saying to someone they stole the election?
Yeah, because you made the people go into the Capitol
and you storm, but that's
You incited that, which is false.
Well, yeah,
Easy,
but
easy.
the hive mindset really is very predominant in a lot of leftist liberal kids and people, because they can't think outside what they're being told to think. They can't think for themselves.
Here's the problem, and this is where I think we as a nation need to come back together. We're so divided that everybody has their own talking points, and they'll say the exact same thing about us that you just said about them, right?
Right.
And so I agree with what you just said, but the fact is that they'll turn that around on us and they'll say the same thing.
But it's true, though. We see it on your social media. We've been seeing it since we put the post on there. It's the same thing over and over
I know.
again.
They say this exact same
But
thing.
we are able to think for ourselves and have critical thinking without the big think tank and the mindset of let's repeat what the leftist media or our leftist friends tell us. Critical thinking is the word I'm looking for. We're able to have critical thinking for ourselves.
So Jeff, here's another question I have for you. When it comes to the large media, social media, giants, they will always throw up, well, if we do this, we're more in accordance with what's going on in the EU, or what's going on, even going so far as saying, well, we have to do this because of X, Y, or Z in China. Do we see that being used as a shield? So you've got the 230, and then you also can say, well, we can't allow that kind of, and here's an example. Like does Germany still have the you can't mention or talk about Nazis or show the Nazis thing?
I'm not sure, but I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Because in in the UK, if you misgender somebody on social media, you go to jail.
Misgender.
See, honest to God, if you accidentally call somebody a misgender,
we used to have a comedy on Saturday Night Live, a skit called Pat that did
Right.
nothing
Yeah.
but that,
Yeah.
and now it's a felony charge. Okay, all right,
but in the UK, yes,
not felony, but yeah, just
Did you have some finish up there?
No, I was telling you. Go ahead. Sorry.
I haven't heard as much of that.
okay.
What I've heard more of is that, hey, they're a private company and they have their own guidelines. They should be able to tell you when and when not you when
whatever
and
they
when
want.
you cannot say or do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't follow their company guidelines, that's their business.
Okay.
Well, it is their business until we can't participate, right?
Okay.
If we can't express ourselves in a platform that you're supposed to be able to express yourself, then something needs to be done. And I'd be more than happy to do the antitrust issue, but
Right.
that has to come from the federal government. And guess what? They're not going to be throwing any antitrust laws at them. They're not going to take them to court.
Yeah,
Well-
we talked about how even removing the 230 was a bad idea.
Yeah.
We
as
did.
well, because that's
We
that just
also
makes
have
it worse.
our Senator Josh Hawley working on this as well.
Yeah,
Oh, at the federal level?
At the federal level.
Actually, the senator would like to take away the 230.
230. It needs to be amended. We talked about this on
Yeah.
a previous podcast.
And I'm a big fan. I'll say it right now. I'm a big fan of Josh Hawley,
Same here.
but I don't know that that's quite the right
It's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
I think you cause more harm than good if you remove that, protection, then you start getting into other stuff.
Well, if they're going to comply by what a platform actually does, then I think 230 applies to them. But if they start becoming a publisher, which is the same type of company that tells you what you can and can't say, then it doesn't really come into play.
I know we have 30 seconds left before you want to go to break, but let me throw this in real quick with the publisher versus platform. A publisher is going to be somebody that, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're a publisher. A platform would be like our cell phone company, where Shaun, you and I could talk, or Jeff, you and I could talk on our cell phone using Sprint, T-Mobile, whatever. That is a platform for us to talk on, as in a public square as well. And that's like them saying that, oh, we're talking too much conservative stuff, whatever, having too of a conservative conversation.
Yep.
And them shutting off our cell phone service, and we're no longer talking to each other on it. Same thing if we were out in the public square. Bless you, Michelle. If we're out in the public square, them basically putting tape over our mouth and not allowing us to talk, or socking our mouth hole.
So Jeff, lastly, before we go to break, the bill, is it in committee, or has it seen committee yet, or where are we at on that?
Once again, we're at the very beginning of the session. So
Okay.
just so you know, none of the bills that I currently have have been referred, but there are lots of bills out there that have not been referred yet. So.
Sure. And one more thing. I know I said one more thing earlier, but one more thing before we
like
go
a
to
Baptist
break.
preacher.
I am. Long story. There was something else about this bill that you wanted to mention as well. Something about the Heartland Institute.
Or, you know what's interesting? Heartland Institute, I think, is based out of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Just got a call from them last week, and they were extremely interested in this bill. They are a right center institute, kind of more libertarian, believe it or not, and they feel that this is a excellent bill. I think there's like 15 other states that are trying to do the same thing.
Something similar.
Yeah.
Listen
that
up, all
makes
your
sense.
libertarians out there hating on this bill.
And they actually like this bill the most. They asked me if they can actually use this bill
As a basis for their
to
own
go
state?
out and
Nice.
talk to, no, not just for their state, for all 15 others.
Oh, wow.
They want to use this bill as a template for all the other states, because it gets down into some very good detail as to how they would move forward in the event that there is an actual case. So,
All right.
very excited.
Awesome. So after this break, we'll talk about the third one, which is curbing the health departments. We'll be back in a moment. Appreciate the podcast? Well, it's expensive. Could we bother you for, say, a cup of coffee a month? For $5 a month, you can contribute to our grassroots effort. Donate online, day or night, at www.fundingtheheartland.com. All right, we're back. Next, we're going to be talking about the third bill that Jeff has got in the hopper. This one is the curbing the health department, and I don't know the actual name of this bill.
House Bill number 725, and it is a modification for public health.
Yeah, so, you know, guys, we started out last year at the beginning of the year with COVID.
What?
And, yeah, I know.
I mean, we are so excited to curb COVID with 15 days to stop the spread, and we're in month 10. I am so excited that this is going to happen.
Well, you know, it started out that we just needed to get it under control.
Right.
And that we just needed to stop the spread, and then we'd get kind of back to normal and make sure that our hospitals didn't get overwhelmed.
Sure.
Well, then it morphed into something different, and it kept going, and it kept going, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, where not the disease, even though they'll tell you that it kept getting bigger and bigger, and while we did get more people that tested positive, the death rate from it did not expand the way they said it was going to, and that was we were going to lose 1 million to 2 million people in the United States alone. So as we continued through the summer, they kept closing down our businesses, and they kept really putting the clamps down on everybody.
Well, if you had a small business that had any sort of contact with people, you were dead in the water.
There you go. And I was going to say, except for the big companies like your Walmarts or your Home Depots,
the big box stores.
That's exactly right.
Where there's literally more people in the store,
Right.
than you could even fit into a small one.
And what we hear, it was always, well, you're not listening to the science. Where's the science behind that, right? Where's the science that says if I go into Walmart that I have less a chance of getting something than if I go into a small business? Go ahead.
Yeah, just like, I'm sorry, but this just said, they always want you to say, listen to the science, but yet they actually don't listen to the science.
Right. That's exactly right. So what I did with this bill is I kind of mirrored what one of the senators from the St. Louis side did, and that was Senator Koenig.
Great guy.
Yeah, he is a good guy. Basically says, look, your local health department can shut down the businesses for up to 14 days over a 2-year period. Now, one side of the aisle is going to say, well, what if there's a pandemic that we need, it's going to take too long if you have to go down to the Capitol, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because that's basically what it ends up being. After 14 days, you have to go down to the Capitol.
It's more like an executive war powers act, where they can declare mini war. You know what I mean?
I mean, this is where we're going to go with this. Is we're going to use common sense for it. If there is a bigger pandemic and an actual zombie outbreak of something, then yes, we would use common sense of keeping things shut down. But go ahead, Jeff. You're talking about curbing the health department's powers and their overreach.
Well, look, here's the thing. Here locally in Jackson County and also down in Kansas City, we have health directors who are not elected people. They are appointed or hired on
health boards.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem
these are
is
bureaucrats at the local level that have way too much power.
Much better way to put it. Here's the problem. While they may, I think that the Kansas City health director makes like $200 and some odd $1,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So while he's making $200 and some odd $1,000 a year, telling you have to shut down your business and you don't make any income. You have to shut down your business. You don't make any income.
I get to shut down at 10 o'clock, though.
Yeah. You got to follow.
Because the science says COVID
right.
comes out after.
Follow the science.
But Shaun's business can't because he serves some other different type of product.
Yeah, I own a Walmart.
But I'm a bar, and I'm able to stay open till 10 o'clock.
Yeah, well,
because science.
Yeah, well, you can't go to the Waffle House or IHOP.
Correct.
Because at 10 o'clock you eat a waffle, you're going to turn into a pumpkin.
You get COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, get COVID. Yeah.
But here's the thing that really, really is irritating is that while he's telling you that you can't open up or you have to close down at a certain time,
talk to me.
He's still making his $200 and some odd $1,000 a
That's
year.
Right.
So it's really easy to sit up there in the golden office and tell people when they can open and when they can't, when they can sell things and when they can't. While you're making the money that you have, it's just ridiculous. And so what this bill does is it just says you can't do that anymore. That you can shut people down if you think it's necessary, but if you shut people down past that point, you have to go to the legislature to get the approval to shut them down for a longer period of time.
Well, that's what you'd expect in any sort of mass casualty encounter, right? Some sort of legislative action where somebody gets involved. Like, if we declare war, normally, Congress gets involved. Yes. Somebody gets involved. So I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Pandemic,
Yeah.
right? If you've seen that movie, you got people dying literally in the streets. You actually have a mass casualty event. I think with something like that, before you even hit those 14 days, there'd be action moving,
Yep.
right?
Yep, that's right.
So when it's a slow walk, like the COVID, where you may have it, you may not. I mean, I mentioned this in last week's podcast. I actually know somebody whose parent died from COVID, right, in a nursing home. So I actually finally did have somebody I actually knew. In a mass casualty event, you'd assume, I wouldn't have to go looking, I guess would be the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. So in that particular instance, I have a hard time accepting some of these closures, some of these, precautions, especially when we're doing, and we mentioned this in a couple podcasts, the whole, cloth mask thing. Not in 95s. In 95s, they're actually have the filter. I'm talking about, I'm showing my Chiefs pride because, I'm wearing a Chiefs, cloth mask or whatever.
It says what we're talking about is the warning sticker on there, or the warning label that comes with it, says not preventable against COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah, it literally says
for
cosmetic
purposes.
Yeah.
I got one of those masks.
Makes you feel better, though.
Oh, yeah. And it looks really cool because it's got a little
No,
emblem on
I
it.
never wear mine. Well, okay.
The one that I have actually says Memento Mori.
And
You
what's
know what
that
that
mean?
means? It means remember you die.
Yeah.
So I walk around with a mask saying remember you die.
And I look at him, I'm like, why are you wearing that?
Well, Shaun, nobody's saying that this isn't a real issue.
No.
Or a serious virus, because
right.
it is.
Yeah.
It has affected a lot of people.
No,
in
it really
a
has.
It affects everybody
But it got rid of the
differently.
flu.
Yeah.
It
I
got
haven't
rid
heard
of heart attacks.
You know what's interesting? I haven't heard one thing about the flu this year.
But
Not
by
one.
the way,
Yeah, and people aren't dying of heart attacks anymore, or car accidents, or gunshot wounds. They're dying of COVID.
Shaun,
Yes.
when producer Becky and I edited the last podcast,
Yes.
I got to hear what I missed out on.
Oh,
Thanks a lot, buddy.
you're welcome. Anytime.
So,
Anytime.
and you brought up another good point, because you brought up nursing homes, because
Yeah.
that's another piece of this bill. Because this bill also says they cannot keep you from visiting your family member in a nursing home. It also says that you cannot keep your family member. They cannot keep you from visiting a family member
Or getting
in a
them out.
hospital.
Or getting them out.
Right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. My kids, I have 7 of them, as you know. 2 of them had RSV, which is it's a respiratory virus that for young babies and elderly people, seniors,
Right.
can be deadly.
Right.
Just as deadly as this disease, or as this, not disease, but virus. So
Right.
when they had it, they were in the hospital for a week or more, and I could go in and see them, but every time I went in to see them, I had to dress up in a gown, I had to put on a mask, I had to put on gloves, and I could go in and see them. There's no reason why we cannot do that today with this COVID virus, and then they throw everything away before you come out from that room.
One of the nasty things that came up with the COVID thing was that in a lot of locations, rehabilitative services are provided by nursing homes. So in order to compensate for what was perceived as a tidal wave of people coming into the ER, they were moving, and this is the excuse that's being given, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, moving those patients to rehabilitation centers, which happen to be nursing homes, only making the problem worse.
Right.
I'm going to assume that's correct. Does the bill address that move, that we have a lot of these rehabilitation services that are housed inside nursing homes, and that transition.
So kind of like with what you were talking about,
Yeah.
Governor Cuomo did in
And
because
Governor
that's Whitmer did.
That's the excuse that's being given. Is,
Right.
that they're
Yeah.
rehabilitative.
And now the numbers, they're coming out to saying that the numbers that actually died are much, much higher than what was actually reported.
So my question to you is, with that mistake, we'll call it a mistake, broad mistake. In that case, it seemed to make things worse
By moving him.
by
in there.
moving him there. Yeah,
Right.
and so the death toll went up. Would that be addressed in this bill as well?
I don't. It
or
is
is it
not.
just specifically for the Powers Act, which
Yeah,
okay,
it
okay.
is not addressed
No,
in
no,
this bill.
that's fine.
In the what is addressed is the fact that we have many people who have watched their family members die from inside the nursing homes
where they can't see him.
where they can't see them, and their parents or whoever that family member is sitting in there alone and can't have any contact with their family. And what a scary proposition that is. I can't even imagine what those poor folks went through. This is doing away with that.
Okay.
And allowing them under precaution. I'm not saying that you can just walk in and see them, but
Right.
under precaution and under normal circumstances that you would have to gown up and do all the things for protecting them and you and anybody outside of the nursing home.
Right.
You're able to go in and be with them. Same thing in a hospital, because it's just not fair for whoever that person is not to be able to have a family member.
Okay.
Does it address the school districts also with closing down?
It does. It addresses
Because I know that's a big thing that's going on right now, and I've seen people go down. They're going down to the Jeff City about it. So.
right. We want to keep those kids in school.
No.
Especially whenever the science says, hey, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Keep them in school. And in fact, I'm trying to remember, was it Trump that said this? That the cure cannot be worse than the virus or the disease itself.
Well, I'm going to give credit actually to Kansas City's mayor, Quentin Lucas. He said that. He said the cure cannot be worse. Or I'm sorry,
that's right. The cure cannot be worse than the virus.
the virus
or
itself.
Yeah, what you're doing to fight it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So actually, that was the mayor. Thank you, Mayor Quinn. My apologies.
Mayor Lucas.
Yeah, I do think Trump said it too. I think that the multiple people have said it, but I think that's good because that's one thing I did like about Independence School District is that he did start the kids back in school this year early.
Yeah,
when
pretty
he
quick.
should have very
Yeah.
quick. Like we're now Black Ghost King City is they're in person. They're not half and half. They're in person. So.
Right.
All right, and you said all of these bills are not referred to committee yet. They're just in their infancy.
Correct. We're just now starting, and I look forward to having those bills as well as some of the other bills I have working to be referred here shortly.
And if anyone who wants to come to the town hall on Monday, when was that? That was 7
Monday,
p.m.
Monday night, 7 p.m. at the Lake Lotawana Gun.
February 1st.
Right. What is it? The Gun Club? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And if you guys want more information on these bills or a place to look for them, we will have them on our social media site pretty quickly. But for now, you can go to mo.house.gov. That's mo.house.gov. I can spell. mo.house.gov. Search for Representative Jeff Coleman under the members tab. And you can go from there and look at all the sponsored
See all
bills.
right. You'll see all my bills. You'll also be able to sign up for my capital report that keeps you up to date on what's going on.
All right, kids. Well, on behalf of myself and Jeff and Michelle and Kress,
Oh, wow.
we're going to call it a night and not have another 3-hour-long podcast, although this one took twice as long to get ready. On behalf of myself, Jeff, Michelle, and Kress, it's been a joy. Good evening.
See you, Sean.
See you,
Bye.
Sean. Bye.
Thanks.
Hello, sir or madam. We would love to hear from you. No, really, honestly. If you have any feedback, comments, or hate mail, or hate female, visit www.freedomroundup.com. media.fundingtheheartland.com, or you can email us directly at media@fundingtheheartland.com.
Brought to you by the Jackson County Republican Party. Contribute at jacomo.gop. That's JACOMO.gop. And promotional considerations given by Heartland Funding Incorporated, helping promote traditional values and candidates. Contribute at fundingtheheartland.com.